we've covered like the short-term challenges. What do you see happening in this region over the next 3 to 5 years?
Interesting developments. There's these rumors of AI agents.
I know that yourself and iOCO are doing some really cool stuff when it comes to agents. Can you explain to me, as if I was a 6-year-old, what you mean as an agent?
Okay, so it is an interesting concept, but essentially what I want you to think about is 3 types of human-like experiences that we've had with technology. So all of us are used to automation, things being automated by machines. And in enterprise level systems and spaces, we're aware of robotic process automation. So it's not actual robots, but it's a way of automating processes, right? But the problem with robotic process automation is that there's no thinking, correct? Yeah. So,
could you just give me an example of how you'd use robotic process automation?
So for example, automating an email.
Okay.
So I need to send out the same email every week. I'd rather automate it, right? But, and I'll continue with this example, what if a specific point needs to be made every week with a slight change? So for example, the fraud use case. If I need to send out an email every Monday to the fraud investigators about new fraud for them to investigate, but there's certain decisionings that need to be made. So a model, right, which brings me to the second component of an agent, is number 1, RPA, number 2, a thinking model. And so a thinking model is what you're used to in terms of traditional machine learning or use of neural networks to actually consume data, analyze data, and make a decision, i.e., is it fraud or not?
So, big set of data, these are the high-risk markers against that data, and then it produces you a result saying, look, this is the top 10 that we think could be fraud.
Or whatever it would need to do to make a decision, to think, right? So just to take it at a high level, you need a component that actually does the task, so emails, for example, or types. You need a second component that thinks, which is in the modeling and the machine learning and neural network capability. And then we need a GPT, right? It's a GPT-like interface, a large language model interface that we can actually have a conversation with. And then we can kind of say to this agent, hey, why did you make that decision? And that's the newish component. We've had the previous 2 for a while now. So we're used to identifying fraud and a number of automated systems happening afterwards. For example, cancelling of accounts or sending an email to the customer. So we're used to that happening. But now the introduction of large language models to this makes an agent, right? So now you almost have a sentient system.
So you can now chat with your fraud data.
And I mean, if you're thinking about manufacturing, if you're thinking about even the financial space, you can actually ask the system, how's it going? Imagine. So it's definitely something that might sound a little bit foreign to business leaders, sound a little bit exaggerated, but I think that we're going to be 100% socialized to this type of technology in the coming years. And so it's going to be normal for us to want to see it in our enterprise spaces. I think a classic example is people using ChatGPT for work purposes, right? Because there is no GPT at work. And so there's a requirement there, which is interesting. So when the requirement comes from everyday experience with the technology, and you see that there's a gap and you can't have that in our enterprise community, that's where the challenges are.